So Galvao and Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was funny the other night. I was I was done with all my work, right?
Uh-huh.
Like for Grappling Insider, I gotta write a minimum of 3 articles a week,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of finishing up an article, and it was late. I was already tired, and I was right here, and I was almost, I was done with everything, and then I just went on my phone to look at Instagram,
Uh-huh.
just whatever, and then I saw Gordon Ryan like just posted, like he wanted to bet $1 million, and then I was like, oh my god, I was like, this is like a perfect story, and if I can like be the first to break this, I'll get a crazy amount of views. So I went ahead and wrote another article, and it took me forever,
Yeah.
because you got to like input the media and do all these links, do all kinds of back end stuff. And, by the time I got done with it, I was just like, my brain was just fried. And I messaged my co-editor, knowing that he would get the message in the morning. I said, hey, I wrote an article. Can you look at this and publish it first thing in the morning?
Yeah.
And and then I slept in. I didn't wake up until like 9 or 10 or whatever, and I woke up, and the views that article got was insane.
How many?
It's got by far the most of any views that we've published.
I just, when you said that you had already finished all of your work and went to Instagram, I'm just imagining that if you were to base your workload around like Instagram posts that Gordon Ryan puts
Dude.
out, you'd be working 24/7.
Yeah, I know.
Because he's throwing stuff
Yeah.
out there. Just so happens that what he threw out this time is something that a lot of people want to see, and we're actually expecting to see it for ADCC 2021.
Yeah. Yeah. So Gordon Ryan, he's been trying to, Galvao is like considered one of the best grapplers of all time, and also like the students that he's produced and the things that he's done with his gym is, it's crazy. So. And then, but after this match last year, ADCC, I think he said he was retired. I think he said he was retired before that, actually. And then, he did this super match. Who was that against? I forget.
Pena?
Was that Pena?
Last one was Pena in 2019.
How'd that end?
He beat him. Well, he beat him by points, which seems like something that happens a lot. With Galvao. I mean, if you look at his stats, I think that he submitted only 46% of his opponents.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that he won by points. But what I will say is that I believe that he's the ADC Super Fight champion for the last 4 ADCCs. So I think that the expectation coming out of 2019 when Gordon won Absolute was that in 2021 we would be seeing that Galvao Ryan super fight.
Yeah. Well, so after that, it was announced that they're gonna be this next super match. But I heard and have read a lot of people doubt that Galvao would ever compete against Gordon, because he's retired, and it's like if there's not a lot of money in it, maybe he kind of feels like there's just nothing in it for him. I don't know. But Gordon's been like itching to meet him for a while. Last year, I remember I was working at Zynga. I was teaching a class, and my friend came in. He's like, "Oh man, did you see the Instagram beef that's going on with Gordon and Kyle Terra and Galvao and all these guys?" And that was a huge deal back then, right? That was like a year ago or whatever. And then now it's like kind of coming back to
Well,
surface.
he has like really. So one of the interesting things about Gordon is that not only will he get in these, Instagram beefs against, accomplished grapplers that have a real name in the sport, he will go after anyone in his comment section,
Yeah.
which I actually appreciate that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole new level
It's a
of,
new level.
yeah, punching down.
Right.
Then no matter who you are,
Yeah.
if you make a negative remark in his comment section, it's probably best that you keep your Instagram profile on private, because he will go through your Instagram profile and just take screenshots, do a shit ton of research on who you are and what you've done, and then come back and just blow you out of the water. Make it so that you probably quit social media.
Yeah. And he's good. He's good at the trolling and all that stuff. But so what he proposed, he said originally I think it was like 500K and 500K. Like he said, I'll put down 500K, you put down 500K, winner takes all. Now he's saying I'll put down $1 million and then you put down 500K and winner takes all. But it's got to be no points, so sub only, no time limit, and no rules. So I mean, it favors Gordon Ryan's style for sure,
Right.
right?
So by no rules, you're saying that there's no points, that there's no.
Yeah. Well, no rules meaning like, like don't like reaping the knee or something like
So
that
all
would.
submissions are
Yeah,
open.
everything's
all
open.
Positions are open.
Yeah.
Okay.
That chair is gonna be too squeaky for that.
I hope it doesn't pick that up, because this was actually really important stuff we were talking about. I'm gonna say that for lack of a better term, that rule set is going to favor Gordon Ryan, given the percentage of the number of matches he's had that have ended by submission are over, I want to say 75%. Let me just check that.
I think, and also his only 2 losses have come by Pena.
Wow, 80%.
80% on submissions.
So he's won by submissions.
Wow.
Compared to Andre Galvao, who's at 46%.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that Gordon knows that, like, if it was in a gi, Galvao would probably win.
Sure.
Right? Obviously. I mean, I think that's the idea, because he's saying like this has to be no gi. So yeah, it's interesting. Everybody wants to see it. My thing is, I mean, jiu-jitsu is so like, it's not like MMA, where in MMA it's hard to bet on a fighter because anything can happen.
Sure.
You can get knocked. The variables in MMA are crazy.
Right. There's the puncher's chance.
Yeah. So with jiu-jitsu, those variables are vastly reduced, right? It's more of a technical thing. It's not there's not as much like flukes that would happen.
Right.
Right.
Especially with the amount of stats that are available for both of these particular. I mean, granted, there are some unknown jiu-jitsu players that come in that would be hard to handicap. But somebody like Galvao that has, over 150 matches, submission matches, it's pretty easy to, predict what he's going to do or what he goes for. And the same holds true for Gordon. There are a lot of things that, he does in every match. I mean, one of the things that, I was kind of came to my mind was when I was researching Galvao. I mean, not that I had to research. I mean, he's human highlight reel when it comes to powerful takedowns and guard passes,
Right.
and that sort of thing. But like I said, guard passing. I mean, that's what he specializes in. I don't see him passing Gordon's guard, and if he was to try, I mean, I could see him getting heel hooked or something,
Right.
something on the way past. I imagine that Gordon would invert and start attacking the legs and feet.
Right. Well, my thing is like Gordon, you kind of get a sense of his financial status because he presents it to you all the time, right?
Yeah,
Like he's like buying new cars and houses, and he's like taking pictures of money and stuff. So, you know, that's one thing. But then you got Galvao, who is a gym owner and stuff. So I don't know if he is in a position where he feels like he can afford to put down $500,000
Right.
at a potential to win $1 million
Right.
in the jiu-jitsu match where it does kind of favor Gordon, yeah, that's I don't know, that's tough, but I was thinking maybe he sets up like a GoFundMe or something and gets maybe half of that. I don't know how much he could get for it, but I mean, a chance at $1 million is.
I think that there's enough excitement out. I mean, people have been wanting to see this since before. I mean, I think that the general assumption was that Galvao was going to beat Pena in the super fight in 2019, and the hope after that would have been that Ryan and Galvao would have met next year. So I think that there's enough interest, general interest out there that if he was to put together a GoFundMe account,
Yeah.
I could see him hitting 500K or more.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that it's going to be interesting to see if this doesn't go through, if they end up grappling at ADCC for however much that is. I mean, I can't imagine it being too much, but what is this kind of reminds me of in a way is how when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, everybody wanted them to fight for years, right? And they could never agree on money or the timing and this and that, and then once it finally happened, everybody was kind of over it. I mean, not to an extent, right? Everybody, of course, wanted to see it, but like the peak of wanting to see them fight had already passed. And I wonder if this could be a similar situation. Galvao's 39 years old.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan's like 25 or something, like mid-20s, I believe, right?
Right.
24, 25. So, I mean, it's like if this is going to happen, I feel like it needs to happen. Like this is the time to make it happen.
I agree, and I think that what may come of the Instagram challenge, even if it doesn't happen the way that Gordon was trying to make it happen in terms of Galvao coming up with that 500K, perhaps ADCC will see how much interest is out there, and maybe they'll make the fight happen. At some point, the market really decides whether or not it wants to see something or not.
That's the problem with jiu-jitsu. The market's not great.
Right.
Right? There's not that much money in it.
Right. There's not that much money in it, but I mean, I imagine that there has to be enough out there in terms of, I mean, it's an ADCC. It happens once every 2 years. I imagine that they get money off of pay-per-view or whatever. It doesn't. I don't think that it's broadcast for free on YouTube.
Right. Right.
So there's got to be some money coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, everybody wants to see it. Galvao says in his Instagram post that he will do it. So
that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I just think that there's this underlying like doubt on everybody's mind, but yeah.
And there's always the possibility that we're getting buffaloed by both of them. That this is just folks putting something out there to generate interest. So there's always that,
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows?
you know. But I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I am too. If that happens, we'll have to do like a watch party.
Yeah, we should
That would be cool,
actually
right?
do a watch party.
Next topic. What was our next topic?
Nick Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, I said Nick Diaz, like we should talk about Nick Diaz, but I don't know if I have a whole lot to talk about on that. I hope he comes back. He's been out for a while. His last fight was with Anderson Silva. Can you believe that? That was like in 2015 or something.
So the last fight was the one where he laid down. And
Yeah. Yeah, he laid down in the middle of the fight, and
that's a long time ago.
that was a while ago.
And in MMA years,
Oh, yeah.
5 years is a long time.
And, everybody's seen all Nick's posts and stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like he's been training the past 5 years.
No, quite the contrary.
Yeah.
He's living the rock star lifestyle, and God bless him. I think that it's great.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually put in a lot of years into training, and
For sure.
certainly sacrificed a lot for the sport. But again, 5 years, even under the best circumstances,
Yeah.
is a long time. Now, do people want to see him? I think so.
Of course. Yeah, and I say that it doesn't look like he's been training, but I don't really know that. It's like Jake. If you look at Jake and how much he goes out and parties and stuff like that, you'd be like,
Yeah.
that guy's not in shape or whatever, but he's like, that's just part of his training regimen.
He trains 5 days a week, and typically, even when he's partying, the next day he will be there at the gym training just as
for
hard
sure.
as if he wasn't. I mean, even if he was in a fight camp, he trains the same all the time. I mean, minus the cut and weight. He always trains like he's got a fight coming up.
Yeah, and I don't know how much of this I might have to edit some of this out, but we'll talk about it anyway. We were cornering Gil one time in Vegas, and me and Jake, we're cornermen, so I had to room with him in Vegas for a week.
Yeah.
And that was one of the craziest times of my like no joke. That's when I had this like moment of realization that partying and the party life's definitely not for me.
Right.
This is not my world at all. Like I was like, I'll see how it goes or whatever. And we went to a few clubs and stuff. Dude, he goes so hard.
Yeah.
But bright and early the next morning, he's like, all right, let's go train. And he's like getting rounds in with these like, heavy hitters. Like, I'm like, dude, I lasted like a couple of days, and I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I either can't train with you or like I can't go out and, go drinking and whatnot. But that's kind of how he's always been. He's just he's an animal, dude. He's a savage. And, the Diaz's, they're savages as well. Nick's been living in Vegas. He's been living in that environment for the last, 5 years or however long. But, yeah, it doesn't mean he hasn't been training. I know he became good friends with AJ Agazarm.
Right.
And they've, I'm sure they've been training.
I'm sure that they have to. I mean, and one of the things, I'll give him this. I don't think that Nick was much for putting up training video to begin with, even when he was training. He wouldn't, advertise much, what he was up to outside of like doing, doing triathlons. You never really knew much what he was doing in the gyms in terms of, fight prep. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was, training this whole time. I mean, there's a lot of fight gyms in Vegas.
Oh, for sure. And what's crazy is the picture that they posted of him right now. It's insane.
I didn't see that.
You didn't see it?
No.
Dude, he's ripped, shredded.
Yeah.
He looks amazing.
Yeah, he's got to be ready to fight. I mean, like I said, he does triathlons just to, stay in shape.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. the names that were thrown around, did you see who they're talking about
No.
him fighting? Um, I mean, I want to say that I saw what's the Street Jesus?
Um, oh God, Masvidal.
Yeah, Masvidal. I've heard. I mean, we should probably know this if we're going to talk about it, but yeah, I don't know. I
That's a
mean,
fight I'd like to see.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that'd be a great fight.
Yeah.
But
You know,
yeah,
given the styles, both of them have similar styles that they'll, don't mind standing in front of each other and just banging.
yeah, I think that would be an awesome fight. I mean, there's a lot of matches you could make with Nick. It would be a super fight, you know. And Nick is like, I think he's probably like 37, I would say, or yeah, right around there.
Yeah.
So you know, he's still, I think, has, especially with his style, I think he does have some fights in him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a real, traditional boxer style. I mean, outside of the fact that he's a, jiu-jitsu high level jiu-jitsu black belt. I mean, he, sticks and moves and has good head movement and all of that stuff. And, I imagine that he's got a couple of good fights in him.
It was at Gill's fight for he was fighting for the title in Strikeforce, and Nick was also fighting. He was fighting Paul Daly.
Yes.
And so we were down there. It was in San Diego, and I remember at the hotel, anytime, like, okay, so what people don't understand, I think Caesar said this the best. The Diaz's were raised through kind of like adversity, and they've always kind of had to fight against things in their life, and that's where they feel the most like stable, right? So in any like stressful situation, it's almost like they feel they need to war against it or something, right? And that's why, like, if you see, Nick or Nate, whenever, out in the street, they're just hanging out or whatever, it's usually, they're chill. It's not a big deal.
Right.
But at a fight, even if they're not fighting, if Nate's at a fight, just as a spectator, or Nick, it's this kind of stressful environment, right? And I think that triggers something in them, and they, to like stabilize that, I feel like they've got to like kind of war against something, right? And I think that's why you see them getting in confrontations and whatnot. I remember one time, the time that Nick fought Paul Daly was early on in the week, and I was eating lunch at the hotel that we were staying at, and Nick comes in and he just has the worst look on his face, and I'm like, oh my God. And earlier the week we had already almost got into it with other former training partners and stuff. Right. Anytime you're at fights with Nick and Nate, like, you got to keep your head on a swivel, right? Because like,
leading up to the fight.
Yeah,
just
leading up to the fight.
Hotel,
Shit can go down real fast, right? So I was sitting there eating lunch, and Nick came through. He wasn't planning on eating lunch. He was just like walking through, and he had this real like bad look on his face. Like, I was like, oh, something went wrong. And he saw me, and he came over there and sat down, and he was just like kind of venting to himself. And he was like, these motherfuckers. And he's like, I hate fighting. I hate it. And he was just like going off, and then come to find out what it was he had just got done with his interview with Ariel Helwani when he told Ariel Helwani that, I should slap you. I don't remember what Ariel Helwani said to him.
I do remember that interview.
I think he was like just trying to instigate something or whatever, and then he was like, he says like, where I come from, people get slapped. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped.
It was like right after that he came and he sat down with me while I was eating lunch, and he was just like so like mad about that, right? And people, they see them as these like instigators and stuff, and dude, they're not. It's just like, I feel like their reaction in those environments,
It's hard for them to turn it on and turn it off. And since we're going back as far as Paul did, one of the things that I remember is a great story was when he fought Diesel. Was it Riggs? Joe Riggs. And after the fight, they were both in the hospital. And I guess somehow they ended up in rooms across from one another.
Yes.
So they were both had IVs in their arms being hydrated. And they ended up in a second fight in the hospital.
Yes.
And the only reason that they didn't get arrested was because, I mean, the cops in Vegas are typically pretty cool, especially with, UFC being based out of Vegas. But, anybody else, gets into a second altercation at a hospital.
Yeah.
So that was actually really
They ended up, if you hear the whole story, they ended up fighting in a closet. The fight like spilled into the closet, and it was Nick and Nate and Joe Riggs all in there. Basically, Nick and Nate were beating the shit out of Joe Riggs at that point, I think.
That's such a good story.
Yeah, that was a good one.
See, this is the kind of stuff that you can look forward to.
Yeah.
That happens around a Nick Diaz fight. But, again, just to echo, that they really do thrive in adversity. For me, one of Nate's best fights, this is speaking about Nate now, was, the first Conor McGregor fight when Nate was asked to take part in that fight. Maybe, was it 7 days before it happened?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he took it on short notice.
Yeah, he took it on short notice. And I believe, that at the time he might have been like in Mexico, like on a boat, like drinking tequila.
Yeah.
When he got the call.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And the Nate that you got that night when they fought, I mean, it was just amazing. He in times of adversity, he knows how to dig deep and find something within himself to really, kind of, it's hard to explain. I mean, he's just an amazing fighter, and his brother's, an amazing fighter as well.
Yeah.
And I think that there's certainly many people out there that would like to see Nick come back in the ring.
Yeah, and every time, like you're saying, every time they fight, it's exciting because they are like so emotional in terms of like when it comes to a fight. And like Nick had that quote about, fighting, it's not a sport like tennis, right? The guy's trying to elbow you and punch you and knock you out. Like, why should I be sportsmanlike, right? It's a fight. It's not tennis.
Right.
And I think that that's true. And I think that because they have that mindset, that's why they kind of become this certain kind of way in their fight. And man, I couldn't agree with that more. Like jiu-jitsu, that's why, like, if you look at all my articles in Grappling Insider, I never refer to a jiu-jitsu match as a fight.
Right, it's sport.
It's sport. It really is. And the difference is, and I know a lot of people get mad about that, and they take offense to that, but yeah, you are fighting for position. You're fighting, for a submission and this and that. But, I have been in actual fights and I have been in actual jiu-jitsu matches, and there is a difference.
Right. I mean, fighting for position, is the same thing as, one would say, in football, they're fighting for position.
But it's not a fight.
It's not a fight.
Yeah.
And it's an important thing to consider, especially since, when people are throwing punches and elbows, I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I do imagine that it would be very difficult to turn that on and off.
Yeah.
Leading up to, which you've seen with the instance with Ariel Helwani prior to Paul Daly, and then, after the fight, like,
right.
What happened in the closet at that hospital.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That added wrinkle makes it that much more funny.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because the way that I had imagined the fight having taken place was in a hospital room. The fact that it began in a hospital room, and then migrated into a closet with not just 2 people, but 3 people in the closet. Makes it amazing.
You want to hear another wrinkle to the story?
Yeah,
I can't believe you haven't heard this. Apparently, according to Joe Riggs, too, this is what Joe Riggs said. He shit his pants during this whole process. Oh, my God.
Was this the time when somebody threw a shoe?
I think so. Yeah, I don't remember. There's a new. I think the UFC actually put it out. It's like a cartoon version of what happened, and it has Joe Riggs like telling his story, and it has Nick telling his story, and they put it to like a cartoon, and it's amazing, dude. Awesome. Well, this was our first ever podcast, full length. We've done just kind of teaser podcast.
Right.
So this is our first one full length. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the response to it. The response to our previous ones have been massive.
Yeah.
So this should be good.
Yeah, they've actually come up with a lot of questions in terms of, different things that they want us to expand on.
Yeah.
So we do go through the comment sections. And,
Yeah.
So we are reading those comments and taking those into consideration.
Yeah, so make sure you guys subscribe on a bunch of fives, so you can get the the notification when we have a new one. We're trying to do these every week, and I mean, yeah, who knows how long this will last. I'm sure it's just going to be a massive smashing success.
I think so. I got nothing else to do anyway.
There you go. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks. Nice.